in case you don't know, I have an 8-year-old little boy. His name is Maverick. And Maverick is at an age where he needs to know everything. So our home is like a really open layout, so you can pretty much hear whoever's talking. And I'm telling you, every single day, I'll be talking to my other daughter, my other son. I'll be on the phone talking to my sweet wife, whoever it is, and Maverick will come in to wherever I'm going, and he will either ask, "What are you guys talking about?" Or he'll interrupt, or he'll try to get into a conversation. And so many times I have to tell him, "Dude, this is none of your business." None of your business, right? Well, this subject that we're talking about, sex, it's probably one of those things that you're feeling like, this is none of your business. And you know you're right, because sex is something that is private and personal, and you need to be careful who you talk about it with. And so while it is probably none of anyone's business, it needs to be someone's business, because you need to be wise about sex, because it has incredible power to shape your life. And maybe you're thinking, why the heck are we talking about this at church, right? What is the deal? You can talk about a lot of things at church, but maybe sex is not the thing you should talk about, except we feel like the church should be the safest place to talk about anything. You should be able to talk about anything here, especially about sex and sexuality. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably sitting there going, okay, so now is the time when he goes, sex is something, somehow it's bad, or you should stay away from it, or whatever. And you would be right in thinking that, because a lot of adults, when they talk about sex, that's kind of their thing, right? A, they either don't talk about it at all, or B, they talk about it in a way that it makes it feel like sex is somehow dirty or wrong or shameful or something like that. So that is not actually what we're going to talk about at all today. The number one thing that we want to know is that God created sex. God created sex, and God made sex a good thing. It's something that's supposed to be great and wonderful. And I know when we're talking about sex, sometimes it's going to feel really awkward. You're going to probably want to laugh sometimes, want to giggle. You might feel strange. Those things are all totally normal feelings, and totally understand it. But we want to talk about it. So how do you talk about sex in a way that honors God and helps you guys understand kind of God's purpose for it? Well, to do that, we have to go to the very beginning, to the book of Genesis, when God created the world. In Genesis 1:27, it says, "So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them and said, 'Be fruitful and multiply.'" And in case you are not a Bible scholar, he's not talking about gardening and math, all right? He's talking about sex, right? God created people and then told them to have sex. This is what I want you to do. I created this thing for you to enjoy. And for some of us, it's hard to imagine that God would even care about that. But it goes even deeper than that. It wasn't just that he created it and it was good. It was this awesomely perfect thing that is otherworldly. And here's what I mean by that. Check out this following verse in Genesis 2:25. Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. It was like this perfect place. And you can't even imagine what that would be like, because our world, we have so much shame that is attached to sex and sexuality. And that's because that wasn't how God created the world. He didn't create it to be that way. When God created Adam, he built this awesome garden, put Adam in it, and said, "Here's some trees, and this tree has some fruit, and I don't want you to have it." And then Adam and Eve were tempted, and they decided that what they thought was more important than what God thought, and so they ate the fruit. And it said that when they ate the fruit, their eyes were open, and they realized, holy crap, we're naked. But before that, they didn't care that they were naked. And that's because God created this awesome world, and then when Adam and Eve sinned, it changed how the world was supposed to be. And so you guys are living in a place that is different than how God intended it to be. And that is the same for sex and sexuality. Because of that sin, it's no longer how God created it to be. When sex happens in the way God planned, it is a positive thing. It's how it is supposed to be, but it has to be the way that God planned it to be. How many of you guys have a fireplace in your house? Probably a lot of you guys do. Like, fires are awesome, right? When it's freezing outside, they're so nice and warm. You can build the perfect s'mores, right? They give off great heat. And they're awesome as long as they're in the appropriate place, right? A fireplace. The problem is when that fire is not in a fireplace, right? Like, if it starts like sparks coming into your house, into your living room, all of a sudden the fire gets on your floor and your drapes are up, and all of a sudden it has all these unintended consequences, right, of not having a fire in the fireplace, right? When you have the fire outside of its intended area, it creates all this damage. And that's the same thing with sex. When it's in the appropriate place where God intended it to be, then it is awesome. When it is outside of that, it can create incredible damage that you're not even planning on it. It results in outcomes you didn't imagine or intend. And a lot of you guys have been there. You have experienced some of this pain. You've experienced it in your life, in your home. Some of these consequences, they hurt us physically, right? Sometimes you can get a sexually transmitted disease that can hurt you. They can hurt you emotionally, right? Put you in a place where you didn't even realize that you could be hurt in that way. It hurts others as well, right? Especially when you're manipulating someone to get what you want. Sex was created for two people who have committed their lives together in the context of marriage. That's how God created it to be. Look at this verse in Genesis 2. It says, "This explains why a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one." The idea there is that sex is powerful. It's incredibly powerful. When you have sex with someone, it's not just this physical act. It's like you are combining people. They're coming together. You're joining yourself to another person in every possible way. And that is awesome because, let me tell you, marriage is really, really hard. Like, marriage is great, but it is really difficult. And when you have sex with someone, you are connected in a way, how do I explain this? Like, it's like super glue. Like you are connected so together, and that connection, a feeling of love, that will carry you through some really hard times in your marriage because of that feeling of love that you have for one another. So that is awesome. That is so great. That's how it was intended to be. The hard part is when you're in a relationship that where with someone that you aren't married to. So, like, when you have sex with someone that you're not married to, that powerful feeling you have with someone that you may never be married to. And because of that, you don't think clearly. And you feel like you're committed to this person, even though they're not the right fit for you. It's hard to explain. Our small group leaders, they'll fix it all. They're awesome. So sex is good, and sex is powerful. And maybe you know that because you've experienced it, right? You've experienced the physical, the spiritual, the emotional hurt that comes with sex outside of God's plan. Maybe you've seen it hurt a relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Maybe you've seen it damage relationships between friends or parents or even you and God. And maybe you've been sexually abused or harassed, and it has left you with all kinds of difficult feelings of not understanding what is going on. And I want you to know, as someone that has been sexually abused, God never intended for you to be hurt in that way. If you've been sexually abused, you need to know that it is not your fault. You did nothing to make that happen to you. And I want to really encourage you to talk to someone. Talk to a small group leader. Talk to a caring, trusted adult. It's so important. It is so important. And I just want you to know that God loves you and has a plan for you despite that. God loves to use our hurts to help others, and God will do that with you as well. So here's the big idea today, is that sex is awesome. Sex is good, and sex is powerful. And so what we want to do today is encourage you, all of you, to do two things. And we want to encourage you to do them this week. The first one is I want you to find someone to talk to about sex. Is it going to be awkward? Probably. Are you not going to know what to say? Probably. Are you going to giggle or laugh? Probably. That is all normal. But it is so important to talk to someone about it. The other thing I want you to encourage you to do is be brave enough to start talking. It's one thing to know, okay, Rawson says when you talk to someone, that's fine. It's another thing to be brave enough to do it. And I want to encourage you to do that. The big idea again today is that sex is good and sex is powerful. And as we go to when we go to small groups, I want you to think about this question: who is one trusted person I can talk to when it comes to sex? Who's one trusted person I can talk to about that? All right.